light. The light.
There are 4 lights.
Where is everybody? It's anybody. Hi there. Hey, I'm Ron Patton, the executive producer of Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Ground Zero Lounge Halloween party. I don't know where Clyde is, but that's okay. We have some really good merchandise over here. Got some books, and we even have masks. So if you don't have a Halloween mask, we have world-renowned sculptor Jonathan Fuller mask. We got aliens, we got a Batman, sort of ghoulish, batish looking guy, and sort of a zombie guy with bad teeth and an eye hanging out. So we have a lot of goodies. But anyway, I think we're going to have a special guest come up. So if you could start the music now.
For those of you who are calling from the Caribbean, that would be southeast of the Rockies. 5201-534. The state of California is west of the Rockies. For those of you who are living there, you'll dial 1-800-5201-534. The city of Boston, we get many cards and letters. You're east of the Rockies, and Denver is in the Rockies. Wyoming is in the Rockies, parts of it. Dial 1-800-5201-534. Tehachapi, Mississippi is east, while Hawaii is west. We're not sure of India. India could be east or west of the Rockies. Where is it? Is that east or west of the Rockies? Now, America Live AM, overnight, this is the CDC, the Center for Disease Control.
Special guest coming. Get ready. Who could it be?
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm Clyde Lewis. Well, actually, I'm George Doherty being Clyde Lewis, or whichever. I figured it'd be a good idea to come out and visit tonight at the Ground Zero Lounge. So, are you guys all feeling well tonight? Yeah, come on. I know the weather's been crazy. It's been kind of cold. There's a lot of bad parking going on out there. But hey, it's Halloween. There's a big old horror festival going on over there. They have a big spook alley going on. So, I'm sure this place will be inundated with a lot of people. So, how many are familiar with the show we did about 2 or 3 nights ago when we whipped out the Ouija board? How many by applause remember that show? Few people do, yeah. Well, I got something to tell you, which is really kind of bizarre, and that is, just yesterday, they announced that they had slammed together a number of particles at CERN in the Atlas chamber. As we were saying earlier, the Ouija board, of course, talked about the Atlas. We had somebody named Alice on the board talking to us about Atlas and going underground into the rabbit hole. Well, they went down underground into the rabbit hole, and of course they blew up some particles. Now they're saying that they're able to differentiate now that the universe itself, the cosmology of the entire universe, is now bubble upon bubble upon bubble upon bubble. So what we have now is we have a reason to believe, or a reason with quantum physics to believe, that yes, there are many worlds and that we experience these many worlds, and there are times within the year where we certainly have more opportunity to come in contact with spirits, ghosts, anomalies, having what we call the Mandela effect. All these things happen because of the fact that we do have this kind of bubble upon bubble universe. And so the more I think people discover and learn, we find that not only is this time of Halloween kind of like a spiritual tradition where we're honoring the dead and we're remembering the dead and we're looking at spirits in the spiritual realms, it's also a time to rediscover how science is now paving the way for us to understand that we do have quantum entanglements. And the quantum entanglements are the very things that scare us around Halloween, the appearances of ghosts, the appearances of other worldly creatures, like perhaps You know, we've had people talk about what they've seen on the road out of the corner of their eye, which I thought was very interesting because, you know, when you're on the road, you see things you wouldn't normally see. And so it's amazing the stories, you know, everybody's seeing Bigfoot. We had Lord Christensen on the program who actually was a former police officer. He's a retired police officer. And he was relating some of the things that he'd encountered, and he said that more times than not, police officers do encounter the paranormal. And when they do encounter the paranormal, they tend to have to kind of write it off and kind of keep it on the QT because, you know, their sanity is questioned. But here's the thing that's most interesting is that as we're seeing the changes going down, I mean, 43%, they did a poll, YouGov did a poll, 43% of the people of the United States of America actually now say they believe in ghosts, or they believe in demons, or they believe that these things exist. There's only been about like 13% though that say that they've come in contact with such things, that they've been in the presence of such things. And there are others who had experiences that they cannot explain. And see, this has been the charge of this radio show that I do, Ground Zero, since 1995. And back, you know, that many years ago, some 25 years ago, all of this was considered craziness. All of this was considered strange. But then, some 30 years later, it's part of the pop culture. Everything that's happening now, whether it be you see a ghost TV show or you hear about some strange true story about conjuring, about alien abduction, all these things, these are now common. People are not afraid to talk about these things anymore. People are not afraid to admit that there's something going on. Now, I don't know if people see this as a spiritual thing or they see this as a scientific. How many people see this as a spiritual thing by applause? How many see it as a science thing by applause? Yeah, I would say that. I actually agree. I'm going to sit down for a minute. I actually agree that this is more or less a science situation, and the reason why I say it is because.
You have a chair here.
What's that right there? Sorry. This mask makes it hard. Anyway.
Good mask.
Thank you. It's unique. I'm sure George is going to see this. He's going to basically tease me about it. So I'm excited, though. I'm excited to see what he says about this. But anyway, I guess you always at Halloween want to kind of pretend like you want to be somebody that you can't be. And so maybe it would be harder for George to pull off the Clyde Lewis thing. But anyway, as I was saying, we are now at a point in time where we have in the palm of our hands the ability to bring forth that which has been unknown, that which we have considered taboo. We are now at a time in history where we have things like CERN, which are basically, you know, it's like, you know, the magicians over time, people like John Dee and Edward Kelly, they were ancient alchemists. They were old alchemists during the Victorian era. And we had Aleister Crowley, who actually, they said that he was a very evil man because he dabbled in the occult. And you had Blavatsky, who was actually a theosophist, who actually wrote things and talked about the strangeness and everything that happened then. And see, all of this was theory, all of this was idea, all of this was put down on paper, all this was scribed, even thousands of years ago. These ideas were just ideas, and some of them were considered crazy. But you look at all of these ancients that claim to have magical powers. They claim to have powers. You have Moses, you have the Egyptian magicians, you have the secret schools, you have all of these people who claim to have powers. And where do they learn this power? How do they know about this power? Well, first we thought it was some sort of a supernatural power that only certain people could possess and certain people could use. But then as we grew with intelligence, we realized that everybody has this ability. That everybody, believe it or not, and I was talking with Barry Taff, and I was realizing as I was talking to him, I think it was last night, that people, whether you know it or not, you have that power. You don't need a Ouija board, you don't need to do anything, you don't need to put yourself in some crazy trance. We all have this power of intuitiveness. The only thing is most of us don't know how to use it. We don't know how to open our minds and relax sometimes, to open up to what is out there, and we try to make decisions based on our intuition. They always say, well, trust your gut. Well, your gut is your intuition. Your brain is what engages and gives you the logical, more territorial and that kind of thing. But the gut or the heart is what you rely on for intuition. And anymore, it's not enough to be told information. It's not enough to be given what is called the truth. You have to assess it, and you have to use discernment now, because a lot of people want you to follow them. They have this attitude where, look, my opinion is going to be the opinion, and if you don't follow that opinion, then I'm going to yell, scream, kick, and moan, and start a hashtag group or whatever they do. And see, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the clown world syndrome. We're in this situation where everything that is the most absurd thing you'll ever hear becomes normal. And I wish people would understand that we don't have to, adhere to this crap. We don't have to continue to, be bombarded with, this silly stuff we hear in the mainstream. We need to find a way not to necessarily be violent, but we need to make it, known that we're not going to, take it anymore. We're not going to take the abuse. We're not going to take people who actually take their bad manners and try to mold it into political correctness. It's not something we want, right? It's not something to do. And I would say that, a lot of people, think, well, they don't want to, they don't want to cause any trouble. But see, that's the problem. These people do want to cause trouble. These people do want to make laws that are unfair. These people want to, I was having dinner one night. It was late. I was out shopping for my wife, and I went to the TikTok restaurant, and I went and sat down and had myself something to eat. And there was a couple that was just next to me, and I overheard the conversation they were having with the waitress, and I was really blown away by this conversation. And I've never talked about this on the air because it's more or less a local issue. But they were talking about, getting breakfast. They were going to get breakfast. It was late at night. They wanted to eat chicken fried steak and eggs or something like that. So the waitress shows up at the table, brings the food to the table, sits down and says, bends down and says to them, "Now, are you okay with your coffee? Is it black? Do you want it black, or do you want something else with it?" And I'm thinking, well, why don't you just ask if they want cream? And so he said, well, where's the cream? I says, well, do you want cream? And he said, well, yes, I do want cream for my coffee. And she says, okay, thank you. So she went to get the cream and brought it back. And the woman says, where's the jelly for my toast? And the waitress says, well, do you want jelly for your toast? Well, of course, I wouldn't say anything. It's supposed to be on the table. Well, and then she said, you realize that by law, we're not allowed to give you jelly for your toast or cream for your coffee. And the reason why is because they're in individual plastic containers, and there's a law now that states that they are not allowed to give you these things or have a straw available, something for you, or it's a $500 fine to the person who just gives them. You have to ask now. So if you don't ask for your straw, if you don't ask for your cream, if you don't ask for your saltines, even for your soup, they can be fined $500. And I'm thinking, where did this come from? Did I vote for this? I didn't vote for this. I mean, I asked the waitress, I said, how do you feel about this? And she said, I'm just annoyed as hell, because she says it just ruins our tips, because, they think we're being, douchebags to them, saying, well, I'm not going to give you that because you didn't ask for it. And so it cuts into the customer service. And another thing, here's another thing that's an example of clown world. How many people are familiar with the Portlandia building? By applause. Anybody? Downtown Portlandia building? Yeah. Did you know that the Portlandia building now is eliminating men and women's bathrooms? They're eliminating the bathrooms, and they're going to make them unisex, okay? But they're actually going to make them unisex. So usually there's a sign up that says anyone can go to the bathroom, male or female, doesn't matter. But what they're really going to do is they're going to take out, and this is a big task for them, they're going to take out the urinals in the Portlandia building. There will be no more urinals in the Portlandia building, and the reason why is because they don't want to single out a certain sexual preference in that bathroom, okay? So, So I came up with this idea, all right? After I saw this, I came up with this idea, and I'm afraid to do it, but I want to do it so bad. I want to do it so bad in my office. So I came in the other day in my office, and we're in the Pac West Center, and in the office there are these pumpkins, all on these bales of hay in the office. And it says, pick your pumpkin for the pumpkin carving contest. And I thought, you know, I want to come up with a great idea for a pumpkin, but I don't know if I can do it. What I want to do is I want to go buy a basketball, and I want to put a name tag on it. I wanted to say, I identify as a pumpkin. I think that would just fuck everybody up, wouldn't it? But see, that's the thing, is I'm afraid to do that. I think it'd be a great idea, because it'd just be basically going, it's clown world, guys. And you know, I was dismayed also that, you know, I was reading somewhere that I guess this poor man, I don't know what city or state it is, but this poor man lost custody of his child, a little 7-year-old boy, and the mother says he's going to go for, I don't know what they call it, gender transformation surgery at 7 years old. And I was like blown away by that. I'm thinking, this can't be happening in my world. This can't continue. And you see, listen, I'm not some moral prude, and I'm not some guy who is gonna, you know, go after somebody because they make choices that their own choices. I mean, I believe, like, you know, some people that, you know, it doesn't matter what's between your legs, it's what's between your ears that makes you who you are, okay? But, you know, it's a 7-year-old boy, okay? 7-year-old boy, it's removing urinals from a bathroom, which is silly and inconvenient. It's all of these things. Why? Because we're going to look back at this time, we're going to look back and say, why were we being so stupid? Why were we, I don't even know if it's PC anymore, it's just downright clowny. It just, I don't understand why they're doing this. I don't understand why they're taxing people, you know, through their minds. I mean, look, people don't understand. I mean, well, I think they have good intentions, which a lot of people I think do, and they think they're doing good in the world, and I think that's okay. But I don't think they know the consequences for their actions and what they do. That while they may think that this is the good thing to do, which is, you know, fine, everybody has their own, you know, lives and they do what they can. But when they try to impose that on everybody else, I tend to worry about that. That goes in both ways. That goes with, I don't want to impose race on anybody, I don't want to impose anything else on anybody. I don't want to make people feel bad for who they are. I don't want that. But, you know, it just seems to be that everyone seems to want to make you feel bad for who you are and what you feel. Now, there are things as a people that we look at that are manners and integrity and respect, and we do that for people. But man, do they have to make it mandatory? And they're actually, another thing that I find interesting is that there, I guess, a group of individuals in the Northeast that are now saying they would like to amend the First Amendment of the Constitution to actually include hate speech. And I thought to myself, okay, well, then this is a thought crime that you want. This is a thought situation. It's like, what is behind it? What is intent? How is it? How can you judge intent unless there's a huge campaign involved? I mean, look, if I say something and you take it wrong and I feel bad about that, I'll say I'm sorry. But you know, it's like now you have to go on an apology tour, okay? You say something bad, you have to sell t-shirts and go on an apology tour, shake hands, kiss babies, and say, I know I'm not running for office, but damn, I'm so sorry for what I said. I'm so sorry. Comedians now are afraid to even do comedy now. They're afraid to do comedy because, you know, like Dave Chappelle and others, they're afraid to, you know, get up and talk. And so what they do is they take their stuff on the road to places like England and other places because they're not as jaded as we've become. And they understand that it's funny, that it's comedy. They understand that, you know, comedy isn't always politically correct. That sometimes it can be a little cruel, or it can be a little, you know, dark, or it can be a little blue. I mean, whatever makes you laugh, right? As long as people aren't harmed. But there are people now that say they're triggered by certain things, that, and you don't know this. You don't know this, and you want so badly. And that's the thing. I think people forget to think to themselves, and I think this about a lot of people. People are good if you just let them be good. You know? All of you are good people if they just let you be good people. And the thing is that who's the judge to say that what you said or what you did is a bad thing, or that you have one more privilege than someone else or whatever. We are being mindful. We have to be mindful of everything, but it shouldn't have to be mandatory every day. It's like, have you ever walked down the hallway in the office and somebody says to you, smile? And you look at them like, fuck you. I don't want to smile. Don't tell me to smile. I don't have to smile. I don't have to do this for you. I don't need to smile. But people do it anyway. But see, that's the thing, is that how is it that you could wake up every morning and they want you to be this perfect little angel, and they want to give you this credit score. It's called a social credit score. They have them in China right now. And the thing is that if we start having social credit scores, it's going to really be hard on the American people, because of the fact that, you know, Americans aren't always the best to each other, but we do try to be as best as we can. But now it just seems like it's out of control, and people say it should be a requirement that you have to be a certain way, that you have to say certain things. They're actually going to outlaw the word bitch in Massachusetts. Did you know this? They're outlawing the word bitch. They have a law, a bill right now in, I think, Massachusetts, where they're now going to outlaw the B word. And I find that interesting. It's like that all the words in the English dictionary they want to ban. I mean, I can think of a couple that could be banned. You know, words like crotch, that should be banned. Moist. Anybody like the word moist? Moist should be banned. I hate the word moist. How do you feel? Moist. And you know, the word crotch is pretty ugly too. Crotch. It just doesn't sound appealing. You know, it's like, the word crotch or the word moist just doesn't sound appealing. I'm sure you have a word that, you know, triggers you. You know, that, what's that? Moist crotch, yeah, that triggers everybody. Don't get me started on her.
It's not a bad thing to have a moist crotch.
No, it's not always a bad thing. But it doesn't sound, what's the word? It doesn't sound appropriate. I mean, there are words that, I mean, I'm sure you use that, you know, if you really to think about them, they sound kind of bizarre, you know, when you use the word and you're saying, it doesn't fit the mood or whatever. It's like, you know, tetherball. Tetherball always sounded like inappropriate for me. So what are you doing? Tetherball. It just sounds dirty. I'm tethering ball or whatever. I don't know. It's just, you know, a little ball hangs down. Oh, it's just getting worse just talking about it. Tetherball. And that's the thing about tetherball. I felt betrayed when I was in school. I was in elementary school, and I would play tetherball. And I'm thinking, why the hell do they have tetherball at elementary school? It's not an Olympic sport. It's not something that you're going to be famous for. They don't give college educations in tetherball. It was just a waste of time. It was a waste of my freaking time to play tetherball. I feel very betrayed, because I used to play it all the time. And then I got smart and realized that the best place to be at the elementary school is to be at the monkey bars with the girls and just watch them go across the monkey bars. That was fun. That was something that, anyway. So, I mean, we've gotten completely off the beaten track here with what I was talking about earlier, but I just want to let you guys know that there are things that, in a more Halloween spirit and what we've done with the Ouija board, what we did the other day. In fact, I'll tell you this. We want to actually believe that when we were doing our Ouija board session in the studio, we want to believe, and I think we know, that when we did the Ouija board session, that Tracy Twyman had visited us in the studio that night. And we all love Tracy, and Tracy did a lot of that type of work, but we realized that she was probably the one that was giving us all the information. And the reason why, and this is what's really weird, is my producer, Ron Patton, went home the night that we were using the Ouija board, and he said at 5:17 a.m., he received 3 phone calls from an extension at the offices where we do our show, and that extension used to be Tracy Twyman's extension. And we were like freaking out. Ron was telling us that this happened. We also got a call, 666-666-6666. What's that? What time was that one?
9:30.
At 9:30, you got a call, 666-666.
The actual message that was left.
Oh, yeah, the message was like somebody huffing and puffing. It was kind of weird. So, I mean, weird things do happen. And we had so many things come down on that board, talking about Atlas, talking about Alice, talking about the rabbit hole, talking about the earth, the underworld, talking about, this is the one that really got me, and everybody's been writing me. Stay out of the big city in November. And believe it or not, I just got word a couple days ago, I guess on the 4th of November, major big cities are going to be having rallies that may turn out to be, riotous. They're going to be doing, I can't remember what the reason for doing it is. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with, some other thing. But be aware of that. Be aware that around November 5th, I guess November 2nd through November 5th, there's going to be this window where these people are going to be organizing. And when they do, they're going to be organizing in the big cities. And they're going to be doing their demonstrations. And there was word that they may get violent. The more they do this, the more we're opening ourselves up to violence, whether it be Antifa or whether it be Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer, whichever groups get together to do the rumbling, they're going to get worse. And there are other fragmented groups as well. I mean, when they say 7 out of 10 people in the United States, they just did a poll, believe that we're going to have a civil war in the United States. Do you guys think we're going to have a civil war in the United States by applause? Anybody think that? Do you really think that? I want to, if you think that, I want to explain something to you. There's a couple of things I think people don't understand when it comes to these pure political topics with dealing with civil wars, civil unrest, and what have you. I know a lot of people are going to think that if we do have civil unrest, it's going to be the left versus the right. That's not how it works in a civil war. What happens is that there are many groups, and as we see now, there are many groups that are raising hell about different topics and different ideas. And when you have a civil war, there's actually one group or two groups, 2 or 3, that have a lot of power. Now, of course, I'm not discrediting the idea that the left or that the political groups that lean left and political groups that lean right aren't going to be the main protagonists in a civil war. But what I'm saying is you do have other groups like the communists, and you have the socialists, and you have, you have Black Lives Matter, and you have Me Too, and you have all these other groups. And these are the fragmented groups that they gain a lot of power during a civil unrest. And they too will be fighting as well. So you have everybody fighting against everybody. There's no real, it's not like back in the Civil War days where you had gray and you had blue. It's not like a football team. It's going to be a number of people, and you're not going to be able to trust your neighbor. You're not going to be able to trust, divulging information that you're saying, because you never know who in the group is going to be so angry they're going to go nuts over it. You think that not being invited to Thanksgiving dinner sucked because you said you were a Trump supporter? Just imagine what's going to happen if you say you side with a certain group of individuals and the people at the Thanksgiving meal think that you're a douchebag for thinking that way. Okay? That's going to be worse when it gets on a grander scale. Another thing that really gets me is that so many people are like jumping up and down, screaming and yelling about how they want impeachment. Impeachment. Look, if you want impeachment, that's your gig, that's your deal. But here's the thing that I want to tell you. We're damn lucky that we live in a country where we can wake up every day and know that we have a president of the United States that's there at the White House. Imagine waking up in a country like I did back in the 80s, waking up in a country where you have to read the paper every day to find out who the fuck the president is. If that's what we want to be in the United States, we're going to be no different than South America in the 1970s and 80s. And that's how I see it. Because I don't think people realize that if we're going into that direction, if we're going in the direction where we're just going to get rid of somebody because we just don't like them, you're going to start seeing the military take over, you're going to start seeing things like that happen, and then you're not going to like it. Yeah, Venezuela, North Korea, just go down the list. I mean, you could wake up in South America back during the Dirty War, you can wake up and one day you'd say, well, I thought General Galtieri was president. Well, no, they got another guy in there that's basically taken over as a Peronista. Well, the Peronistas were out tomorrow. The Radicales are coming into power. And then there's the Union of Luz y Fuerza. They're going in to take over the Casa Rosada tomorrow, so you better stay in your house because there's going to be a huge golpe de Estado that day. And they're just going down the list of all the coups, the major coups, the soft coups, all these things, and you have to read them in the paper every day to get an idea. And then there are major strikes that happen in cities and towns. I mean, this is something that could happen here. The only thing is we're such a big country that it'd be hard to catch on, but if the major cities all get involved in this, and then everybody else starts to infiltrate, and we have one group that is armed and another group that decides they want to fight with chains, knives, and baseball bats, it's going to be an interesting thing to do. And it's going to start, it starts within the realms of the police, the military, and the people. And this is how it begins. So I don't want a civil war. I mean, I'm seeing that, and people don't understand too, that they also, when you talk about a civil war, what you're doing is you're calculating the number of crimes and the number of deaths that take place within a given year to understand whether or not crimes are motivated by politics or race, and they do that. They analyze every time. That's why you're hearing more about how, when El Paso happened, they made it all about race. Okay, they said this is the group of people that were all killed. They were mostly Mexican Americans or Latinos. And they tally that, and they try to realize, okay, so what is the war? Is it an economic war? Is it a black swan event? Is it all this? And so many of us, when we learned civics in school, didn't really understand how civil wars operate. Only we have the 1800s to go on, and we have posse comitatus being overturned and all these things. And yes, that can happen. Martial law can happen. All that can happen. But I don't think the American people are ready for that kind of lifestyle. I mean, we're already getting a taste of what a government could do with the power being shut down in California.
But that's why they're taking away guns first.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that they are shutting down the power in California, and the people don't have a say in this. They don't have a say in this. People are dying, and then the fires break out, and then what are they going to do then? And it's just a mess. It's a lose-lose situation. But it's being done to test the nerve. It's there to test the stamina of the people that it's affected. And believe me, one of the things that really aggravate people is when their power's out. I mean, have the power out for 5 hours, maybe you can get away with it and do well. Have it out for like a week, and knowing that your government and your utility is doing it on purpose, that's something that gets under your skin. And so if you think that California is going to be the only place where this goes down, imagine if they want to shut down the power because of heat consumption in an area where the temperatures have dipped below zero. They can do that. Because they can't take the power, they can't take the strain on the power grid or the power supply. And that's why I always tell people, you need to be prepared. Now, I know back in the day, you talk about preparedness and everybody's thinking about, the bunker. You're in the bunker waiting for the world to end and all that. No, that's not what it is anymore. It's the idea that you need to have potable water in your house saved and set aside because, if the power goes out, you can't have water being pumped into your house. You've got to have potable water. You've got to have food that's non-perishable that can sit on a shelf for a good 25, 30 years. That way you have it, you can have it whenever, and you don't have to think about it. You just prepare and forget it. And you got to have other things too, like maybe a generator. We have in the office, we have this die-hard generator that you plug into the wall, and it basically keeps getting in power. And then if the power goes out, you have a source that has plugs and everything, and you can get off that source for a long period of time without having to use gasoline or something else. You have to get something that's an independent power supply that you can have in your home too. And you have to think of alternative ways to get heat and to build fires for cooking and other things. That happens, especially with the storms that we've been receiving, the horrible storms, the power failures in California. It could be that, let's say, for example, something does break out. We have the 7 in 10 say there could be a civil war. Well, what if something breaks out down the street where a group of individuals decide to take over a block? And you're told to stay in your house, and you're not going to leave that house. You won't be able to leave your house for like 4 days or 5 days until they contain it. You're not going to be able to go to the store. You're not going to be able to do anything. And even then, a store, usually a store in a general area, has basically 3 days worth of food on the shelves for the population that surrounds it. 3 days, that's it. When they had the situation going on with the hurricane, they had water in cases they brought in through, I think it was like, oh my God, I can't remember the number, but there was a ton of water that was in the place. They went through it in 48 hours. It was gone. And there was no water to be had because people were buying this bottled water. All the bottled water sold out within 48 hours. So, I mean, that's how dire it could get. And if you're not prepared, if you don't have things to prepare, then you're really going to be wondering how you're going to eat. You'll be wondering how you take care of your family. And, that's why whenever I get the opportunity, I always tell people to go to preparewithgroundzero.com. It was funny because the reason why this whole deal we got is so amazing is because it never was an advertising deal to begin with. What it was is I was getting spammed by this company called My Patriot Supply. And I called them and I said, hey, I said, where did you get my email to send me all this information? And they said, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, you know, I run a talk show. And I said, you know, I don't want to, I can't go over the heads of the sales department and say, hey, I want you to do something on my show. I said, if you could just give my listeners like a really cheap way to get food, I'd really appreciate it. And they said, well, what do you want? I said, well, you know, a lot of people complain that all your stuff, all this food stuff is very expensive. I said, if you could give me like a 2-week supply for, I don't know, $75, I think that'd be a good thing. And they did it. And now, according to Ron, they're actually working out a plan where they're going to get us something that's even a little less that you can have in your office. A little canister you bring into your office, or a little canister you can have in your car for about a week if you get stranded in your car, or if you get stranded in your office, or you have. I think every office should have one, because I mean we've actually convinced our office now to allow us to bring in a hot plate that we can plug into our little charger, and if we ever find out that the other side of the river is shut down because of power, there's a bridge lift and all the bridges are stuck, we got a little hot plate in our room, we can make and a charger, and we can cook whatever we want with our food. We have food in the office, so you know, we'll be living on macaroni and cheese and rice for the next couple of weeks, but still, I mean, we're gonna eat and we're gonna be fine. So, as I've said, preparewithgroundzero.com if you want to go there and get that. It's only $75 for 2 weeks. You can get, and it's limited for 2 per family, or if you want to go even bigger, it's like $147 for a month, or you know, you get 2 of those, 3 of those, I don't know. But it was just a deal I set up because I was really concerned about the weather we've been having. I've been really concerned about the way the world's going. We are in a calamitous time. Whether you believe in climate change or you believe in something else, it's a calamitous time. We can argue politically over what the hell's going on, but the bottom line is survival. The bottom line is that we are heading towards a time of scarcity. It's either food or famine. It's either having food in your home, it's taking care of your family, or it's not going to be. And I think that every single one of us should keep that in mind right now. We are in a time where the only certainty is uncertainty. And we need to plan for that. We need to plan for that fact. It's not doom and gloom, it's just, hey, the positive thing is if you're prepared, you have nothing to worry about. Okay? Because remember, Noah built the ark before it rained. And everybody thought he was crazy. So it's time we should build our arks before it rains, because we're not crazy, we're smart, we see things going on. Things are changing, the world is changing. And you know what? It may be temporary. There may be a time where I don't have to talk about having food in the house because I don't see things like falling apart around me, but now I do. I'm very aware of the weather. I mean, we had a early winter all over the damn country, and everybody said, oh, this is normal. It's not normal. It happened, in the 1940s? So we had all this time, 70 years or so, before we start seeing the change in weather again, and people act like it's normal. Well, okay, it may and it can happen in your area, but as it is happening, you have 18 inches of snow and it's piling up outside your house. How the hell are you going to get out to get food for your family? How are you going to get out to work? You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to be stuck there until the snow melts. So those are some things to think of. I don't know what's going to happen in Oregon, Portland, but you know, one of the things that's really giving me the paranoid heebie-jeebies is they keep saying, the big one is coming. They keep telling me that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it, but the big one is coming. I mean, we've had like, what, 5 earthquakes off the coast since October 1st? And every time they do that, they're always telling me, the big one is coming, the big one is coming. And I'm freaking out. I freak out over that stuff. Because I don't want to have to deal with that. But I mean, we have to deal with things as they come. We really do. How are we doing for time? I feel like I'm, huh? What time is it? 7:50. 7:50? So I want, what's that? Okay, well, I want to open up for questions. If anybody has any questions or any topics that I'm not covering, and they'd like me to talk about them, I would be more than happy. Because since it's the lounge, we like open up the microphone to anybody that wants to talk, and they can talk about whatever's on their mind. I'd like to hear what you have to say. So just raise your hand, Ron will run the microphone to you, and we'll talk.
Hi, Clyde.
Hi.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you, I've been dying to ask you, the last time you played The Sounds from Mars,
Yes.
by any chance did you play that at your house in front of your cats?
No. But you know what? I get emails
My cat
Yeah.
lost his mind.
Oh, it did?
It did. And he's 16 years old.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Did he have to go on kitty antidepressants or something?
No, but he's so paranoid now. Because I had it turned up pretty loud so I could hear, because it was pretty cool. But yeah, he just kind of went a little loopy. I didn't know if your cats had experienced it.
Speaking of which, again, this is another creepy thing about space. The Indian space probe has disappeared. No one knows what happened to it. It was supposed to land on the moon a couple days ago, and it just disappeared. They can't find it. They don't know where it is. It's gone. Completely disappeared, and no one knows where it went. It's like it got eaten by some alien intelligence. Done. Over.
It was made by China, so it just
Yeah, it was made by- China's doing really well, except this is really creepy too. China has their little jade rabbit out there on the dark side of the moon, and guess what the jade rabbit ran into? Some gooey substance on the other side of the moon. I'm thinking, oh my God. Somebody walked in on an adolescent alien. It's like, okay, we know, it's okay, really. We know growing aliens need to do their thing. It's okay.
we're not recording.
Yeah, we're not doing anything like that, you know. We know it's one of those times and it was frustrating, we know, but hey, if you want to have that talk, little alien boy, we'll talk. We'll have that talk. Okay, anything else?
Yes,
Oh, hello.
still me.
Hello?
Hi, it's still me.
Oh, it's still you.
Yeah,
I
I
can't tell, the lights are like,
I know.
anyway.
So I was one of the callers on hold on Tuesday
Yes.
during your Ouija board show.
Yes.
I never actually got cut off. I heard the whole thing and I hung up after you said goodbye. That show messed me up for days. It made me so sad inside, and it wasn't.
Why was it sad? Why did you have a sad moment?
Just because, I mean, I'm sitting here with my sister and my brother-in-law, and my sister kind of knows that I've had this urgency, that something's wrong, something's gonna go down.
Right.
And just the message that came through that night just gave me such a feeling of dread, like, oh.
Well, it gave me a feeling of what is not being said. In fact, one of the things that was interesting is it mentioned something about a president's health towards the end, and everybody's like thinking, oh, Trump's going to get sick. Well, did you guys know that Jimmy Carter's in the hospital? Yeah. So I didn't know that, but he's in the hospital. He's 97 years old. I mean, come on. He can't go, building houses forever. He's going to get tired eventually. But I'm just saying that, he was in the hospital, so maybe it meant that. See, that's the thing. That's the thing about Ouija board situations. I don't think they make it clear that a lot of that stuff can be taken whichever way, and it can be interpreted in so many ways. And that, while you're making up your mind at the moment, you could immediately be ignoring some other data that could be even more important to the session you've had. And that's if you're doing it the right way. So, look, everybody after the show was writing me about this asteroid that's supposed to come close on November the 21st. Well, I was going to do a show about that with Avi Loeb, who is with Harvard. He's the scientist that talks about Oumuamua. But here was the deal. I stumbled upon something else that got me a little bit more paranoid, and that is something called the Yarkovsky effect. And I never had heard of it before. And so I was studying it, and I realized, oh my gosh, maybe this is the thing that it makes it even more scary, is that since it's so big and it's coming so close, that it could be taken in as a moon. Okay, the Earth could make it a moon because it could get into our gravitational field, and it could be, orbiting around the planet. Or it could be pushed by the sunlight. The sunlight could push it, a gentle push in a direction that would even get it closer to the Earth. So, and then people say, well, maybe that's what the event's supposed to be, the board talked about. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we're going to have uprisings towards the 5th of November, I've been hearing that in the news. I've heard that something's supposed to happen November 3rd in Seattle. Stay away from the big city, the board said. So, you can actually, listen and interpret it how you want to, but we won't know until after the fact what it meant, if it meant anything at all. And that's what's so interesting about doing that sort of thing. It's not, I don't look at it as anything more than giving an idea of what may be, not what will be. And if it does happen the way it says it happens, then it's just one more proof that synchromisticism does work, and it works a lot, and it works more than we realize.
Any more questions? Okay.
All right, man, I got a quick question.
Sure.
I was driving to a job site on Thursday, and I was driving around 47th and Columbia Boulevard, and I drive around the lot for my job, and all of a sudden the GPS starts flipping out, like flashing, doing a whole bunch of crap.
Yeah.
My whole route, only the route was actually flashing.
Right.
So I get past this section, it's probably about 2 miles, and then start to pick back up. I'm able to drive, no problem, get to my destination. I drive back and that same section is doing the same thing.
Right.
So I'm wondering, are they doing any kind of 5G testing or anything like that around that area? Do you know?
They were doing GPS testing in China Lake about a few weeks ago, a couple of months. They're still doing testing in China Lake right now with the GPS. But the thing is, so are the Russians. The Russians are doing GPS blocking. We also, from what I understand, we had a freak, what they call a solar hole. Yeah, we had a solar, I don't know, we had a little bit of a solar disturbance because there was a solar hole that spewed out some energy, some particles. Well, no, and see, that's the thing, is we are at a solar minimum right now, so having something like that happen is just rare. And in fact, we may be seeing the northern lights down here a little closer to Portland because of what happened. So, you know, these things happen. I mean, once again, we're in a universe that will always throw us some sort of a ball from left field. And we got to be prepared for it because it's a very powerful. I mean, we live. You know, this planet's like it's on a big snooker table, and you know somebody decides to shoot a cue ball at it, and we're like, oh, you know, it happens all the time. We've had well, we had a Boa, then we had Borisov that came through. There's another one they say is coming through. We have this Apollo, what they call the Apollo class near Earth object, potentially dangerous near Earth object that's coming on November the 21st. Oh, the pole shift's still going on, but it'll take a long time. I mean, it's taken, well, they're saying that the shift that happened now has taken 30 years to happen. They still say that's very fast for a pole shift, and how it's gone from the North Pole all the way to Siberia. And, you know, believe me, the Russians are taking big advantages to this. They want their polar, they call it they want a polar causeway, so they're able to ship goods through it. And the way they want to do it is they basically petition the ICC, the IPCC. They basically went in and they asked them, "Can we like geoengineer that part of the planet so that we can cool down the ice a little bit, so we can get through there with our icebreakers?" The IPCC said no. So China invented something called Sura, which is their version of the HARP project. And what they're doing is they're trying to melt down parts of the Arctic right now. And everybody's saying, "Oh, it's global warming." Well, it's geoengineering. And of course, you know, there's a little bit of contribution here and there, but you know, when you start noticing how the polar vortex gets lower and lower every year, when you start seeing bombogenesis being, and the funny thing is these bombogenesis, where the millibars of the barometric pressure dip like really quickly, they form these things out on the coast, and so we get a little bit of it, but as it gains power going over the Midwest, it just gets uglier and uglier. They formed another one over Denver, Colorado. And Denver, Colorado had 4,000, what was it, 4,000 of normal of snow that fell there because of what they did with that geoengineering project that they did that way. So, I mean, either you believe in geoengineering or you don't, but I pretty much gauge my opinions on what's going on with the weather with regard to geoengineering and nucleic ice experiments and what they do in the skies with the chemtrails. I really believe that chemtrails steer storms, or they actually, when they spread them over around a period of time and they supercharge them, they create major storms as well.
That's one thing about chemtrails living in Portland, where you got planes flying overhead every day, daily.
Yeah, but lately they haven't been up there.
Have complete clear blue skies
Right.
the other day.
Well, the other day they were laying down some, and I don't think you noticed, but we wake up and it's beautiful. We see the trees and it's nice, and then by the end of the day it was gray and horrible.
Yeah.
But you know, lately it's been kind of like hit and miss. Really, I just don't. I haven't seen that much going on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Clyde. Love your show. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
My name's Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Yeah, I was watching I was listening to your show the other night, and you're talking about vortexes and things disappearing and reappearing.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a little concerned because I realized after listening to your show, an incident that happened that morning, and I realized after your show that listen to your show, that's actually been happening quite a bit to me since I moved back into my house. Now, there hasn't really been any activity, but from there's a rumor that there was a suicide at the house, and you mentioned that that you should be doing stuff to protect yourself, but you never got into detail about what you should be doing to protect yourself, or I mean, what should I be doing to protect myself?
Well, first of all, you got to figure out what's going on. I mean, you got to get somebody who is a professional and knows exactly what's going on. Not all things that happen that are paranormal are all connected to the same thing. I mean, we could have a demon in the house, we could have a poltergeist in the house. If there's a poltergeist in the house, then it's up to you to get rid of it, because it's you causing the poltergeist activity. Okay, if it's a poltergeist, it's psychokinetic and you're doing it, and you don't realize you're doing it, but you're doing it, meaning that you have stress in your life, you have something going on that's triggering this stuff. That's poltergeist activity. Otherwise, if you have something that's external, because like you say, somebody committed suicide in your home, you may want to find out from the person you got the home from what traumatic things went on there and get down to the bottom of it. There are other things you need to do. For example, now that it's happening, I would keep a diary of what's happening. Write down what happened, write down the time it happened, and that way you have a record of that happening. There are things you can do. You can like go out. There's a little store over here called Invoke that's run by Christy Williams, who's a good friend of ours. She has Palo Santo. She has Sage. You go in and you smudge the house and you clear the house with the smoke, and it basically cleans it out. It cleans it out in a spiritual way. It's those are the ways you protect yourself. You also should take care of your body. In every way you can. You should sleep well. You should eat right, and you should just keep yourself well aware and alert and vigilant. You should always be writing stuff down and taking note of it. If you want to go to the extremes, you could go and get a tape recorder, ask what's going on, and play it back to see if you get any answers. And if it gets too much, you may want to hire somebody who is like someone who is a spiritual leader, like a priest or a bishop, or you could bring in somebody that's even a shaman, or sometimes witches can take care of it for you if that's your choice.
The last incident actually wasn't at my house. I'm a truck driver, and it actually happened inside my truck.
Then it's following you. If it's happening with you, it's following you. And that's what you have to understand, is that you have to try and assess in your life what's going on that may be creating this. I mean, if you're under a lot of stress right now, or if there's something that's going on in your life that is drawing it out of you, it manifests outside of you. And that's what's going on. Something is manifesting because of the stress and strain you're putting your body through, you're putting your mind through.
I am going through some major transitions in my life.
Yeah, and the thing is once those transitions are taken care of and the stress is gone, you won't be manifesting a chaotic entity around you. See, that's the thing, is that it's why we were talking with Barry Taft the other night about that whole thing, saying that everybody has psychokinetic power, they just don't know it. And when they're in times of stress and things are going wrong, and they continue to go wrong, you're thinking, God, do I have a demon basically trying to beat the hell out of me and get me into submission? Maybe, but who's created it? You have. And you don't do it on purpose. It's just that people have sometimes this tendency to manifest things outside of themselves. Ghosts only show up, and spirits only show up and do the things they do because we're there to witness it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it.
Interesting. Things ain't actually going wrong for me right now.
Right.
But I'd say I'm in a chaotic transition.
Right.
Right now.
And it's probably stressing you out a little bit. You probably don't even know it.
Oh, I know it.
So it's stressing you out, and rather than keeping it inside of you, it's manifesting outside of you, and it's basically showing itself, and it's doing things that are chaotic in front of you. And the only way that it'll go away is if you get everything under control, the stress levels go away, it'll go away with it. Or you can do some rituals that'll make you feel better. You can pray, you can go to somebody who has the ability to remove these things, or at least to maybe give you a healing touch. Getting a massage, getting something where you're getting the healing hands, or you're feeling like you're getting some care, that'll help as well. It really does. I mean, it's not always, shaking the Bible and something, go away. A lot of it has to do with what's inside of you. Whatever is coming at you sometimes comes from within you. It's the law of attraction, and sometimes it's also the law of contagion. If you attract a contagion, it's like getting the flu. You have to find a way to get rid of it, and there are many ways to do it, like smudging and rituals and things that make you feel better about what's going on in your life. Stuff that'll relieve that stress and that tension so it won't manifest outside of you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? I can't tell in the light. Don't go to the light, Carol Ann. Yeah.
Perhaps you want to talk about John in need of donations.
John, are we still looking for donations for you?
Yes.
Or is this still happening?
Yes.
All right, buddy John here is going to have an eye surgery. Is that correct? Is it eye surgery? Yeah. An eye surgery, and he's been quite the, he's a great fan of the show. He's a supporter of the show. And he always comes to the lounge, and he always helps out around here at the bar, and he does a lot of great work. So if you can, talk to John and give him a little help, because he needs it right now. He's not asking for much, he's just asking for a little bit of a hand to get him through this so he can get this operation. It's very important for him.
I'll be down for a whole week.
Yeah, he'll be down and out of work for a whole week, so that's something that I think would be...
Just to see 3 dimensions for the first time in my life.
You'll see 3 dimensions for the first time in your life. That's what needs to be done. Okay, so that's what it's, it'll help him out immensely. He'll be down, but still, he'll be able to see better, and he'll be doing fine. He's done well for us in the past, so please be generous with John. He's an amazing guy. Give him a hand. We love John. We love you, man. We really love you. Thank you. And,
We got goodies up here.
Oh,
We got
okay.
masks,
we have all kinds of cool things. Yeah, you got that magazine? Is it here?
Who's that? Who's that?
This is cool. Elton John decided to pose for this magazine. Oh, that's not Elton John, that's me. Anyway, it's the new Paranoia magazine, and I'll autograph this for you if you want to buy a copy. Every time they issue my face on one of these things, they always say it's a collector's item, so...
Last time it was 2012.
Yeah, last time they had me on was 2012, so that's it's been a long time. So, if you'd like to buy one of these, you got the mugs too? Or no?
What's that?
Do we have mugs yet? Or no?
Unfortunately, it didn't come.
Okay, mugs will come for the Grind Zero. We're going to have a
Yes.
coffee gathering.
Next month.
Will be for everybody next month. But we have t-shirts, right?
Yep.
We have t-shirts, we have posters,
and
books,
Yep.
all kinds of cool stuff, and the new issue of Paranoia. So come on by, I'll autograph it, I'll talk to y'all. I want to thank you for coming out. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff going on, and you chose tonight, our Halloween party. I'm sure, more people will be coming out, but thank you so much for coming out, supporting the show, supporting the Ground Zero Lounge, supporting all of us. And remember, John, thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank